Okay, so the next thing we need to talk about is notation. So Javanese Gamelan uses a cipher notation system called Kepatihan. So that's what we're looking at here, this little example. Originally, Javanese Gamelan was memorized and taught completely by ear, all orally, but in the modern era, notation is often used for education in universities in Indonesia and, of course, outside of Indonesia, and it's used to kind of assist in memory. So basically, this notation is fairly simple. Each one of these numbers represents a pitch of the balungan. So what you see here on the page is exactly what is going to be played by the saron and the slentum. So dots above and below, like you see here, actually change the octave we are playing in. So if there's no dot, that means we're in the middle octave. If there is a dot below the number, it means we are playing one octave lower. And if there is a dot above the number, like this, that means we are playing one octave higher. The other symbols that you see, circles and parentheses, are for colotomic instruments, right? So this little half circle above a number indicates kenong. This little half circle facing upward indicates kempul, while this circled number indicates a large gong. So the large gong symbol is really important, and we're going to be listening for that in a few examples, and we'll get to that here in a moment. If there is a line over the top of numbers, that's going to indicate that the rhythm for those pitches is divided in half. So for those of you who have played other kinds of music, if there is no line, we can think of this as a quarter note. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. And when we have this line over the top, that means this is going to be divided in half. So da 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 da, like so. One really important thing to note is that you see how these are divided into these little 4-note groups. Those are called a gotro, G-A-T-R-A, right? Now, a really important thing, which is a little bit different about Indonesian music as opposed to Western music, for example, is that the strong beat is actually felt at the end of each 4-beat phrase. So that might seem arbitrary, but it's actually a really important part of the music, and we're going to be talking about that next week. But essentially, what that means is the strong beat in Javanese Gamelan is on 4. So at the end of each of these 4-note groupings. So instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, instead what we have is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. So, as you can see, this musical notation is really stripped down. There's not a lot written down here, especially later once we listen to recordings of full Javanese Gamelan. It's a really complicated music. So we're missing information about tempo. We're missing information about dynamics or volume. We're missing information about repetitions. How many times does each one of these sections occur? Information about text. So what is the vocal, what are the lyrics that are basically used? So this information is learned basically directly when you are practicing with a teacher, or it's determined at the moment of performance. So there's a decent amount of flexibility, or you can even call it improvisation, that's involved with gamelan performance. And we will be getting into how exactly do musicians determine these things a little bit later. So next thing I'd like to do is I'd like to take a look at a simple piece, a piece called Ladrang Wilujeng. And we're going to take that piece and follow along with the notation of it so that we get a sense of exactly how at least a balungan instrument will follow this Kepatihan notation. All right, so let's take a look at Wilujeng. Okay, so before we get started, this is the notation for ladrang wilujeng slendro manyuro. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be listening to a recording of just the balongan instruments, so just the saron and slentem. And as we go through, we're going to follow along singing these numbers right here. So we're going to be singing them using the Javanese names. So 1 is chi, 2 is ro, etc. like that. Now we're just going to follow through on one cycle and see if we can join along with this recording. So here we go. Let's try it. Ro, chi, ro, lu, ro, chi, ro, nam, lo, lo, nam, mo, lo, ro, mo, nam, mo, lu, ro, chi, ro, nam, ro, chi, ro, lu, ro, chi, ro, nam. All right, so were you able to follow along with that? If you were, then great. If not, don't worry about it. We'll have plenty of chances to try this kind of thing again. All right, so moving forward,